Peterson, thanks for having me on, bud. So here's the thing. You often like to go after Christians.
No, just their
We,
arguments.
we, so, whatever. You like to go after Christians, but here's the
Nope,
thing.
just their arguments.
Atheism is fundamentally immoral.
You could argue it's amoral, but not immoral.
It is immoral, yes.
You could
So,
argue it's amoral, but not immoral.
so here's the thing. On what basis are you more moral than a Nazi? Because if you're not, would you agree that if you're not more moral than a Nazi, then your morality isn't worth much?
Yeah, probably. So everything they believed in was literally false. So if you're going to try to base some sort of meta ethics on things that literally aren't true, then it's not rational and it can't possibly be the grounding for anything.
So this should be really easy. On what ultimate basis are you better than a Nazi?
So did you so before you change the subject, did you understand anything that I just said?
This should be simple, bud. On what ultimate basis are you better than a Nazi?
So we can change the subject once you
No, I'm
actually
not,
engage with your first point.
sweetie,
So
I'm not changing the subject. On what
yes, you
ultimate
are.
basis?
So the reason that literally almost any other standard would be better than what they said is nothing that they believed in was true. So if you're going to base a
Many,
meta
many of,
ethics on
many
things that
of
are
the
literally
things,
false, how can
many
it
of
possibly be said to be good in any way?
many of the things they believed were true.
Like what?
They
Which
perceived
Nazi
natural
ideas
selection.
do you think are true?
Natural selection. They simply followed the
They
natural
did
selection
not
of the animal
they did
kingdom.
not believe in natural selection.
Of course they did.
No, they didn't.
They believed in natural selection, and they believed that the weaker conquers the lesser. And
That's not natural selection. That's
that
some
is
like perversion of like manifest destiny or something else. But no, they were fervently against it. They kicked people out of their country that believed in it.
okay. So just to get back to the question here, on what ultimate basis are you better than a Nazi? This should be really easy since you said that
Right.
Nazis
So
are immoral.
again, the things that they purported to ground their like meta ethics or whatever in are literally false. So
Okay,
uh,
so
if somebody's
why
trying
ought
to, yeah, I'm almost done. If somebody's trying to ground whatever they believe in things that are literally false, what good can it possibly, how can it possibly be said to have any real value? You haven't answered that response yet. You've tried to switch the subject.
why ought we believe? What is the moral value in believing that things that are true? Why ought I do that?
Are God's commandments
Think real
true?
hard about this. Think real hard about this. Why ought I do things that are true?
Are God's
Uh-oh.
commandments true? Are you literally arguing that we shouldn't follow something just because it's
Changing the
true?
subject? Are you changing the subject?
You're
I
extremely
asked you.
quiet. Dude, I can barely hear you. I
Sorry.
don't know what kind of microphone setup you're
Oh,
using, but I can barely hear
okay.
you.
Sorry. So, why ought we? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little
Can you
better.
hear me? Why ought we believe things that are true?
Why ought we?
Yeah,
Are you trying to derive an ought from an is?
I'm just looking for any kind of a basis. You believe that you're more moral than a Nazi. So, on what basis are you more moral than a Nazi? It should be pretty simple.
That yeah, like I said, one of the biggest things is the stuff that they grounded their like worldview in is literally false. And if you're trying to tell me that, why should we? Well, anyways, go ahead.
Sorry.
And interesting.
So, why ought I believe things that are scientifically true?
Why it doesn't have to be scientifically true. If you have an objective in mind, then
Hmm.
the truth is the only possible way you're going to get to that objective, unless your objective is to lie to people, I suppose.
Okay. So this should be pretty easy for you. Just to move on to the next subject. On what ultimate basis, on what basis are you better than a Nazi? Because you claim to be better than a
I
Nazi.
literally have answered it several times. I'm not going to answer it another time.
What? No, sorry. Remind me on what basis you are better than a Nazi.
If you can't remember, that's your fault.
So you can't answer the question?
I have answered the question multiple times.
So you are better than a Nazi because none of the things that they believe are true.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Okay.
But also
why-
the things that they believed in violated the sovereignty of the individual.
Oh, the sovereignty of this should be good. This should be good. Why ought individuals be sovereign?
Why ought individuals be sovereign? What right do you have to violate somebody else's sovereignty?
What right do you have to say that individuals can't have their sovereignty violated?
Okay, so the question is, what right do you have to violate the sovereignty of another individual?
What is sovereignty? Where did that come from? Why does that exist? Prove that. You're collapsing, dude. Your whole world.
No, it's not. You just keep saying this is one of the most sophomoric philosophical
You have
techniques that
nothing.
people have.
Like,
It's
you
like
have
the Jordan
nothing.
Peterson technique of it depends on what you mean, but by is and suffering and blah blah blah.
So
You're not engaging with anything. You change the subject every single time I respond to something. And then your ultimate goal is just to, I don't know, LARP as some sort of like postmodernist that says
Sweetie.
literally nothing is true.
Sweetie, you just asserted the sovereignty of humans. Prove that.
That humans have sovereignty? Humans
What-
are discrete, individual, living entities.
You asserted something about the sovereignty of human something or other. Please prove that.
Prove what? That human beings exist? That they are discrete, living
No.
entities?
No, you referred to the sovereignty of human beings. I don't remember exactly how you put it. So okay. So why don't we approach things from this way?
Do you care if somebody else joins us or not?
I'd prefer not to.
That's fine.
So why don't you? So are you an atheist or are you a humanist? Why don't you just put forward like what is your belief system?
Atheism isn't a belief system.
It is though. Like it is.
It's not. I don't think you even know what
It
atheism is.
So it is. Atheism, materialism, humanism, it's all kind of a big mash of beliefs that you guys generally believe. So it actually is a belief system.
Atheism is not a belief system. It's a way of describing people
Okay.
that don't have a particular belief system.
Okay, so let's do this. What is your belief system?
When it comes to what?
Life.
Life, it exists. I believe that life progresses through Darwinian evolution and natural selection.
Okay.
That's one thing I believe in.
Okay.
So, do you have a worldview that is entirely wrapped around the fact that you don't think unicorns exist?
So let's do this.
Men of God,
You
answer
said-
the question.
You said
Do
you
you
believe in-
have
you
a
said-
particular
I have a
specific
question. I have a question
worldview
first.
that is
I have a
wrapped
question
around
first.
the concept of whether or not unicorns exist?
So you can't answer a simple question for me. Is that what you're telling
I'm
me?
asking you a simple question.
You believe in Darwinian evolution.
Okay. So if you keep acting like a jackass, this is what's going to happen. Okay. You asked a question, I responded. I'm asking you a question. Do you have a particular specific worldview that is wrapped around the idea of whether or not humans exist? Go ahead and unmute yourself whenever you want and answer that question.
If I answer this question, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I said that's how it works.
Okay, my answer is no. So here I have a question for you.
Great. And
According to
atheism
Darwinian
is not a
evolution,
worldview, just like
no,
you
no.
don't have a worldview
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
based on
Said I could ask a
unicorns
question.
not existing. Atheism
said I
isn't a
could-
worldview.
You said I could ask a question.
Now you know.
You said I could.
Yeah, I had to
okay.
finish my thought. I didn't ask you another question.
Okay, according to Darwinian natural selection, which you believe in,
Bungled this so badly.
according to Darwinian natural selection, which you believe in, on what basis would it be wrong for me to kill every other human being, take as many women as I want to rape as possible, drive around?
There is no moral framework in Darwinian evolution, so this is a non-starter.
Exactly. And so, on what basis are you more moral than a Nazi?
So, do you believe that 2 plus 2 equals 4?
Yes.
On what basis of that do you think that the Nazis were wrong?
It's unrelated to Nazism.
There you go. There
But
you
yours
go.
actually
You
is
get
related.
it. You actually get something. That's
You
that's
just
hilarious.
said that you have no issue with someone driving around in a tank and doing whatever they want. So on what basis is
No,
that
I
wrong?
didn't. I said that I wouldn't base it on Darwinian evolution. Although you could make an argument for it, because a species that actively goes around trying to destroy itself is obviously not going to be a successful species. And actually, quite a lot of what we know about human beings is that, well, I mean, we clearly are an integral social species. And so there are all these questions about does natural selection favor psychopathy? Does it favor people that are freeloaders and do whatever they want? And it doesn't at all.
So on what basis would it be wrong? On what basis would it be wrong for me to drive around in a tank, kill whoever I want, and try to take over the world? On what basis, according to Peterson, would that be wrong?
I am not I didn't invent any moral frameworks, and evolution doesn't contain a moral framework. So again, this is kind of a non-starter. Again, I went back to the fact that it would violate the sovereignty of the individual earlier. If you don't think that the sovereignty of individuals is important, then okay, you're kind of weird.
On what basis ought we believe in the sovereignty of the individual?
On what?
This is where the collapse happens.
Do humans exist?
This is where the collapse happens, Peterson.
Do humans exist?
They do exist. On where do you get the idea of the sovereignty of the individual?
Does a human like what are you talking about? If a human being exists and you violating their sovereignty basically means you take over some aspect of their life, you are violating their sovereignty. The basis of it is...
Why is that wrong?
Sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry, why is that wrong?
Why is it wrong to violate somebody else's sovereignty?
Yes.
Let's just pretend that I don't know, or I don't have an answer. What's your answer?
You don't have an answer.
Just pretend that I don't, and then tell us what the answer is.
That's your whole worldview, that we can't violate the sovereignty of the individual. You don't even have a basis for it? Like, come on, dude.
Just pretend that I don't. What is the answer? Because you're not going to actually have an argument here.
I have an argument that you have not proved. According to your worldview, there's nothing wrong with driving around in a tank and killing people.
Then tell us why it's. Then give us the actual answer.
I just want people to get the gravity of why your moral system is toilet paper, because you have no issue with people driving around in a tank killing people. You have no issue with that, Peterson.
Yes, I do. It violates the sovereignty of the individual. But
why is it wrong?
Why
is it wrong
just
to violate?
Tell us the answer then. Why is it wrong
to violate this? Why is it wrong to violate the sovereignty of the individual?
Just go with this. I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, so you have no moral system. You have no basis to say that.
Again, assume that that's true. Now tell us the answer.
You have no basis on which to say that we should not violate the sovereignty.
Yes, you've said that 5 times now. Now
okay.
give us the actual answer, what you think it is.
Okay, because we're made in the image of God.
What does that mean?
It is God has imbued humanity with His image, and they're more.
Why is that? And why is that? So therefore, why should that be the basis?
Because I think it should.
Okay, ready? I think we just simply shouldn't violate the sovereignty of an individual.
Okay, I'll give you a little more.
Wow. So it's morality according to you. Wow.
Okay.
So if that's permissible, then it's permissible for me to simply say, I think we shouldn't.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit more.
Except mine's going to be based on like the individual and its capacity to actually suffer, and yours is just going to be based on your personal beliefs. So anyways, keep going.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit more. Because fulfilled revelation, miracles, the witness of the Bible, there's tons of evidence, I believe, that God existed back then and exists now, And
I have evidence that humans exist, and if they do not peacefully cooperate together, then the species will destroy itself.
but
So why
why?
is
But
yours
why?
better?
But why ought we have the species continue?
Is God good?
He is good.
So we ought to follow God because he is good?
Yes.
You are deriving an ought from an is. Congratulations.
I am deriving an ought from the word of God.
Yeah, an is. Yeah, you are deriving an ought from an is. Even if you think that your clever questions get to some like dead end with me or whatever, the biggest
They
issue
already
is you are guilty of the exact same thing.
Not really. I actually
No,
have an
yes,
objective.
really. You are
I
deriving oughts from
so
is, for
so I
example.
have an objective basis. You have a subjective
No, you
basis.
don't. I don't think you actually even know what
Okay.
objective is.
Okay, sweetie. Explain to me what you think objective is.
I wrote it down.
Okay. Uh-oh. Did he disappear? What happened?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just something happened on my phone. So I wrote this down ahead of time because I thought it would be brought up. Objective means not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts.
Yes. That is God's morality.
In what way is that
It,
God's morality?
in the morality presented in Jesus in Christianity, it is objective and it is unchanging.
How is it objective? It
It,
obviously changes because we had to have an entire new covenant brought about. But how is it objective?
no, actually, nothing changed. It was more like it was kind of more like Old Testament is part one, New Testament is part two. We didn't really see the full
Wow.
revelation of God until Jesus came. So nothing is
So it
inaccurate or
changed.
nothing is wrong in the Old Testament, but the full expression of God's will did not come until the New Testament. But you also have not answered the question of where you get your objective morality from. If you even believe
We're
objective.
pretending that I literally don't get it from anywhere, and we're trying to see if you have a solution to this.
I do. It is the morality of Jesus.
Right. So in what way is it objective? That's what we're talking about.
It is unchanging. It is from God. It stands outside of time.
That's
It's
not
not
the
based.
definition of objective.
It's not based on any kind of human opinion or reason. It is. It stands static and outside of time.
So God has reasons for commanding things.
Yes.
So then we can appeal to reason and we don't need God. Just like the rational stance of, well, humans have a sovereignty that shouldn't be violated, and there are all these reasons why we can discover and describe why that is beneficial not just to the individual but the entire group. We can use reason. Secular humanists who believe in like some kind of objective morality or whatever do the same kind of thing because they have an objective in mind.
I would argue everybody uses reason. My reason has led me to Jesus.
Cool.
So you said, do you believe that you have objective morality?
I'm not really sure.
Okay. So you believe that morality is subjective.
I said I'm not really sure. I know that yours is.
Okay. So you believe that would you say your morality is subjective?
So I said I'm not really sure, but I know that yours is.
Okay. So
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, like is murder wrong? I have to ask you two questions. So like, is murder wrong, for example?
It is wrong for so it depends on what we mean by murder. Murder is the unjust taking of life, and it is wrong for humans to unjustly take lives. I already see where you're going with this.
I wasn't gonna ask you about what if God kills somebody.
Okay, sorry.
But what you just said is that the implication for what you just said is that God can do unjust things. God is allowed to do unjust things.
It's not unjust when he does it.
But you just said that it's wrong when a human unjustly takes another life.
Yes, that's
is it
what
wrong
murder
when
is.
God unjustly takes another life?
He's never unjustly taken a life.
Then why did you say it that way?
We can say things lots of ways, but God has never unjustly taken a life.
There, okay, so whatever. Okay, so murder is objectively wrong. That's what you're saying.
It is objectively wrong for humans, yes.
Okay, does God know that it's objectively wrong?
Uh, it is not objective morality applies to humans. It does not apply to God. He's the creator.
Okay,
When God kills
not
somebody with
not the
a hook hand,
question, not the
when
question
God
at
kills
all.
somebody,
Is
sorry.
murder wrong? You said yes. I'm asking you, does God know that it's wrong?
No, I said that it's wrong for humans.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
So does
okay.
God know that?
God made the rule for humans. Yes.
Does he know that it's wrong?
He knows that it's wrong for humans. Yes.
Then it's objectively wrong, and we don't need God because it's independent of that.
there's there's quite
I
there's
think
quite a
that
bit.
people like you confuse objective and objectively. See, in your like for you, if God said, "Go and kill these people or I won't let you into heaven."
Mhm.
You can say that that's objectively the right thing to do because you're trying to get to heaven. That's your objective. But it's objective. So I think that's possibly what happens with these conversations, although I'm not totally sure.
Well, there's quite a bit more involved in Christianity than just murder. There's love God, love your neighbor. I mean, you can't really limit it to just murder. You can't extricate that from religion because it's really about a relationship with God at the end of the day. But what I was asking you earlier is your morality subjective or objective?
I'm not really sure.
Okay, so let's say
I
that.
can tell you that it's true that when you violate somebody else's sovereignty, or I guess you don't like that phrasing, but when you like physically affect somebody or whatever, that actually causes like pain and suffering in the individual. That's true. I don't know if you
Many
don't think that that's true or what.
many dictators and many societies have lived very great lives by violating human sovereignty. On what basis are they wrong?
On the persons whose sovereignty they were violating.
Who cares about them from a naturalistic evolutionary point of view?
That sounds very much like something somebody like you would say.
No, no, no. I'm putting myself in your shoes. You said you believe in evolution and Darwinian natural selection. On what basis is it wrong to do that?
Evolution and natural selection is not a moral framework.
Agreed. Agreed. It's not a moral framework. So why is it wrong for me to kill people who get in my way? Do you see how your worldview collapses, dude?
I I didn't even give you one in the first place. So
But you
I'm just trying to give you the fact. Like, is it objectively wrong to violate the sovereignty of an individual? Well, there are all these reasons why. So, like, again, what is your idea of objective? Is it that we have this objective in mind, or is it just that it's true? It is true that when you harm somebody, that causes them to feel stress and pain and go through all these things. Now, is the objective to not do those things, or is the objective for like the species to be? Well, we can say it's both objective and it would meet the objective that if people just went around acting ethically towards everybody and trying to extract whatever they want, then the population would fail. That is objectively true. So that's a fact of nature, I
right.
guess. Fact of nature is kind of a weird way of putting it, but and now you're just going to say, well,
Well, right.
anyways, you do your own talking, I guess.
Right. And many people throughout history have said, I don't care about the population. I don't care about other people. And so I would just ask you, what is your morality really worth if it can't objectively say that those people are wrong? Because you have subjective morality.
Let's just pretend it's worth nothing and tell me why yours is better.
Okay, do you see the flaw in a population of people getting together and agreeing on a morality that is a flawed morality? Do you agree that a bunch of people getting together and agreeing on a morality together, just because a bunch of people agree on it, it does not mean that it is an objective morality?
If it well, it depends.
Like for instance,
Is
not
Christian morality good just because people believe it's good?
No. I believe in objective morality. Christian morality would be good even if nobody believed in
But
it.
but you don't.
I don't what?
You don't believe in objective morality.
I do.
In what way is it objective?
It is the God's morality is objective because it is not contingent on any human opinion. It doesn't change over time. It's not situational. Is my understanding of subjective morality is that it has to do with situational with the subject. It is viewed as by the subject. So subjective morality can be different from person to person to person, whereas objective morality is the idea, like Sam Harris has, that morality does not change. It is the same across the board, across the world.
Okay, so tell me something that's wrong.
According to me,
You can pick whatever you want.
yeah, okay, yes, murder is wrong.
Okay, according to God, is it wrong?
According to God, yes.
Okay, what if God told you to murder somebody?
If God told me to murder somebody, well, so if God were doing it, in a sense, it would not be wrong because murder
There,
is
you
only
believe in subjective morality. There you go.
No, I don't believe in subjective
Yes, you
morality.
do. You're going to make an
it
excuse for how something that you said is objectively wrong is not wrong if God tells you to do it. That's subjective.
it is wrong for humans. It is wrong for humans to murder without cause, like an unrighteous murder. That is why it is forbidden for humans to murder. Now, look, there are instances
Yeah,
in
what
which
if God told you to go murder somebody?
well, it would be similar to like if I was killing a Nazi so that he didn't kill 10 more people. It would be righteous in that instance.
How do
So
you know
like
that?
so like an American
How do you
sol-
know that?
so an American soldier dropping
How
into
do you
Germany
know that it would be like that?
because to use the example of World War II, Nazis would have continued to kill people had the Americans not stopped them.
Yeah, so did God tell us to do that?
No. I'm just giving you an
Okay,
example
so
of a
tell me
righteous example.
why it would be. Now I forgot what we were even talking about. So I
Murder.
said, how would you know that if God told you to murder somebody, it would be objectively good?
Because it wouldn't be murder. Murder is killing.
How do you know that?
Because God decreed it, and God cannot do unrighteous things. He can't.
How do you
command
know
unrighteous-
that?
Because God has never commanded an unrighteous act.
Says who?
Says evidence, history. So to get
Okay,
to get
we're gonna pause. We're gonna pause right there. You can unmute yourself whenever you want, but I wanted to get a pause here. Okay, that was just unbelievable. Can Satan deceive people?
hang on to get back to murder, because I'm not done talking about murder. Murder is an unrighteous killing. Murder is an unrighteous killing.
Yeah. So if God told you to just go and kill a baby,
It
you're
wouldn't.
telling me that it would not be murder. Now tell me why it wouldn't.
It wouldn't be unrighteous. It is
Great.
only
Now
unrighteous
tell me why it wouldn't be.
because it would be like an example of me killing a Nazi during World War II. It would be a righteous kill. Which are
Why
not-
do you? How do you know that?
It wouldn't be murder.
How do you know that?
In the moment, I wouldn't know it, but God has never committed murder.
So how do you know? You're just declaring that it wouldn't be based on nothing.
I guess I wouldn't know until afterwards, but all I know is that God has never murdered a single
No,
person.
you don't know that.
God, I mean, situational. You're asking for a potential event that could happen and hasn't happened yet. So there's no way of us to determine whether it was righteous or not. But God can take life.
So you don't have an objective world. There's no reason for anybody to believe your worldview because you don't even know if following God's own commandments, if that's actually virtuous and objectively good.
Here's the issue. You didn't understand what the original claim was with regards to objective morality. Thou shalt not murder means you cannot unrighteously take life. So it is not a violation to righteously take life.
Yeah,
God,
and how are we to determine whether or not it's being done righteously?
we don't know. We don't have God's perspective. Only God knows.
So if somebody just went around in a tank and started blanking off people, they could just claim that this is righteous because God is telling them to do it. See, earlier when you're like, your worldview doesn't allow you to pick and choose and say that this group of people are doing the wrong thing, neither does yours.
Of course it does. Because now if
No,
God,
all they have to do is claim that God is telling them to do it. And
but
we won't
nobody's gonna
and we won't
nobody's
know
gonna
if it's
believe
wrong
them.
until after we die.
Nobody's going to believe them.
So what? Something isn't, you said that just because people get together and agree on something, that doesn't make it true. It doesn't matter if nobody believes them. A lot of people didn't believe Jesus. That's part of why he was crucified, I think.
So I would say you're picking a scenario that hasn't happened. So we're told from the Bible, thou shalt not kill. So until something changes that, we are to not kill people. And
Not
so
to murder people.
anybody who goes around in a tank, unlike atheists, it is wrong to kill people. Atheists have
You
no
don't
problem
know that
with
it's
killing.
wrong. You just admitted that you have no idea until after we're dead if it's wrong. So you don't know.
No, it is. No, according to our objective morality, it is wrong.
But you don't know if what they're doing is objectively wrong.
No. You're asking for a specific situation in which God is asking somebody to kill somebody, which is outside of objective morality, which is not
What?
a man killing somebody. That is God killing somebody, and it doesn't have anything
No,
to
it's
do with
not
that.
God telling somebody to go do something is not God killing somebody.
It is according to him. That is why when the nation of Israel killed people in the Old Testament, it was done righteously and it wasn't murder because God commanded it. Because it was not men killing other men; it was God
That
commanding.
sounds like something Satan would do.
I don't know. It's
No, you don't know. That's the point. Exactly.
Well, but Jordan, you yourself said that you don't really have a reason to say that it's wrong to go
Jordan,
around in a tank. Sorry.
not-
Sorry. Peter's what's your first name, by the way?
It's Eric.
Eric, you do not have a reason yourself to say that it's wrong to go around in a tank killing people.
And apparently neither do you.
Well, no,
See,
I
that's
do
the
because
point.
you're concocting this elaborate scenario where God tells somebody, and it's
It's
never
not elaborate. He's done it so many times, or he just does it himself.
When has God told somebody to go around in a tank killing people?
He's never told them to do it in a tank, but he tells Moses and Aaron and possibly, Moses and Aaron for sure, go out and slaughter all the Midianites and kill all the women and the babies except for
Right.
the young little girls. You can
Right.
keep them.
Right, and it wasn't
He's
murder.
done this before.
Right, but it wasn't murder because it was righteous. It was done righteously.
How do you
I
know
saw
it was
somebody
done
in the-
righteously?
I saw somebody in the chat said Crusades. Nice try. I'm not Catholic. Doesn't count.
How do you know that it was righteous?
We don't, Eric. We don't need to know. It's not. We don't know. Dude, you're not
Your
God. You
arguments
don't
are
get to
so
decide.
stupid. Look,
Eric,
your
your morality
worldview
has
doesn't
no
allow
issue.
you to distinguish right from
Dude,
wrong, blah, blah,
dude,
blah.
dude,
Okay,
you're not-
tell me something that, okay, well, here's a fuzzy example in your ethical worldview. Well, but it wasn't that because we know that it was righteous. How do you know
Dude.
that? Well, we don't even need to know it.
But dude, according to your morality, it's not wrong to drive around in a tank killing people.
And
So
neither,
is yours
and it's
any
not
better?
wrong in yours either.
Is yours? No, it is wrong because of my objective
It's
morality.
wrong for the people.
I would
It's wrong
pick
to
up
the
my
people
Bible.
being killed.
I
It's
would
certainly
pick up
wrong
my
to the people
Bible.
being killed. But in
I
your
have
worldview, all it has to do is be sponsored by God, and then it's not wrong.
But that scenario has not happened anytime recently. So it has nothing to do with what we're doing now. So all I would do is I would pick up my Bible. I would say, this is objectively wrong. And because you don't have objective morality, you can't actually say it's wrong.
You don't have objective morality.
I do. I would pick up my Bible
don't.
and I would say, this is wrong. We shouldn't do this. Whereas you don't have objective morality.
Do what? What shouldn't we do?
We shouldn't drive around in a tank killing people.
What if the people in the tanks had belt buckles that said God on our side, which they did?
You're concocting an elaborate scenario, but ironically, you're fine with that, aren't you?
No.
Of course you are, because on what basis is it wrong?
Okay,
to go
if you
around-
call me a Nazi sympathizer, I'm never talking to you again. Okay?
on what basis is it wrong to go around in a tank killing people, Eric?
It violates the sovereignty of the individual.
On what? Why is it wrong to violate the sovereignty of the individual?
because it causes harm to the individual, and every single human, apart from people with psychopathy, agree that that harm is maladaptive.
Why is it wrong to harm people?
I'm not answering your question
Exactly,
again.
because you have no basis for
I said I'm
anything.
not answering your question again.
Okay, why is it wrong to harm people?
I'm not answering your question again. I already
You don't
did.
have an answer.
Do you think I answered it? I'm not doing it again. Do you think it's wrong to harm people?
It's circular reasoning. What you have at the end of the day is circular reasoning. You're saying,
No,
oh,
because
well, it's wrong to harm
it's
people. It's
not.
wrong to
I
make
didn't
people.
say it's wrong because it's wrong.
You
You're
have
doing that.
Okay, then why is it wrong?
I'm not answering the question.
Because you have no
Again.
answer.
I
Because you have
answered
no
it.
answer.
You tell us. Look, again, you can pretend that I don't have the answer. He left. Okay, he left. All right. Well, that calls for a couple of